We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route and how fast. Almost all the world's constitutions are documents in which governments tell the people what their privileges are.
Hey everybody, welcome once again to yet another episode of Two Noobs Talking. It's episode 101. Class is officially in session. And with me, of course, are my two great teachers, I guess you could say. John Tracy, Steve Murray. I'm Matt Craig. We're happy to have you with us. John, how you doing, man? It's a little early in the morning down there in Texas, but what's going on? How you been?
Yeah, especially because AEW puts on a 45-hour pay-per-view.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it. Yeah.
It was worth it, though. It was definitely worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Steve, I enjoyed it, so I'm not going to be mean to him.
There you go. Steve, fresh off a DDP yoga session. How you doing there, bud? What's going on?
I'm getting really nervous because I don't know where we're going to get athletes who wore the number 101 in Philadelphia.
Oh. Well, I actually, to fill that,
I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that too, because it's like now that we're in triple digits, no one wore any numbers of that sort, of course. But I do have some good news and bad news for you guys, both involving movies, both involving Legos. So what would you want to hear first in terms of good news, bad news? What do you think?
I'm a rip the Band-Aid off kind of guy, so...
You want the bad news first?
Yeah.
Well, the bad news is the Joker shot the Batwing. And so what happened was just over the weekend, I'm just minding my own business, I guess, and I walked back, and, I had mounted the Batwing on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the stickers fell off, and it fell to the ground, and it exploded. And so there were thousands of these pieces all over the place on the ground. I'm going to take a picture.
101 pieces.
101 pieces, that's right. But unfortunately, this is like, I'm looking at about I think it's like a 2,000 to 2,500 piece rebuild, basically, of that. So I have a picture of it. I'll just flash it up here on screen of now the aftermath of it. It's pretty bad. So I was like, oh no. But at the same time, it's like I'm really looking forward to the rebuild. So it's like, okay, well, it's all black pieces, and it's like I got to be able to. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a pain, but it'll be worth it.
Episode 254.
Probably 254. I'll be done exactly.
Can I just make a suggestion? Next time you use a nail.
I am thinking about that, and so okay. So my thought process is, how do I remount this? Right. So it's like clearly it didn't work. And it was a Commando, those 3M strips. But it was only on only on a couple of pieces, so it was only holding a couple of different spots, and it clearly fell off. So it's like I do have to think about remounting and how am I going to do this so that it absolutely stays in place. Yeah.
How heavy is it?
I would say it's probably about 5 to 6 pounds. I mean, it's a pretty good sized Lego. I mean, and it's bulky. It is a bulk. It's a big piece. The wing. I don't know what I'm going to do, Steve, to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm going to...
I mean, they make these things. They have a... It's called a screw.
Yes.
And you drill them into the wall.
Yeah.
They're pretty good at holding.
You probably just hold it right there.
Sometimes.
Sometimes they do. Yeah. The good news is, though, I did build a time machine out of a DeLorean, and I'll throw that up there on screen for the guys here. I built the DeLorean. This is a really cool piece, and I got Doc and Marty inside of there. You probably can't really see them in there, but maybe
not really.
Yeah, they're kind of tiny.
Doc looks like a toddler. What the hell?
Doc is tiny.
How can he see over the steering wheel?
I know exactly. He needs like a booster seat to get up. It was funny. But it's really cool. It's a 3-in-1 build. Yeah. Good.
It's probably Christopher Lloyd circa 1960 where he's a little drunk.
You fell off the toilet and created a flux capacitor, that kind of deal?
When he was 5.
Yeah. So it's a 3-in-1 build, and that one you could definitely, it has really cool, features. The gull wings open and close. You got on the back side, you could put Mr. Fusion on, or you could put the long, the fish hook at the end, the first movie. and it also can change into the third movie. And there's also like a lever at the bottom where it can like flip the tires open, into like a, so it flies, that kind of a deal. The second movie, really cool build.
I think your next build should be Biff's 1940 Ford. I think that would be a good
Nice.
That would be really cool.
accompanying piece.
What a car. That was a great car.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in a perfect 80s car, if you're going to build something like that, they were, futuristic back in the day. And it was a great movie car to build a time machine out of, that kind of a deal. So, yeah. As Doc said, I wanted to build it in style. Yeah, that kind of deal. So, that's the good news, bad news, in that regard. So,
Nice.
it is what it is. So, yeah, the Batwing's going to be tough, but at least I kept busy with the DeLorean. That's for sure. So,
There you go.
there you go. Well, with that being said, guys, talking about electricity, let's dive right into topic one here. And to be perfectly honest, California is off to a banging start. Well, maybe
They
not.
need 1.21 gigawatts.
Yeah, not exactly. Yeah, this is going to be really bad. But California asking residents not to charge electric vehicles days after announcing gas car ban. That might be a bit of a problem, Johnny. The California's power grid is under strain due to the extreme heat that they've suffered through. High demand, of course, people wanting to be cooled off, because this is California. The utility grid operator is asking residents to avoid charging their electric vehicles, which comes days after the state announced plan to ban the sale of gas-powered cars by 2035. The California Independent System Operator is asking residents for voluntary energy conservation, over the Labor Day weekend. And of course, this is coming right after the fact that, they're under a heat wave. The American Public Power Association said, when asking residents to limit their energy usage between 4 and 9 p.m., the heating days, or heating hours, the top 3 conservation actions are to set thermostats to 78 degrees or higher, avoid using large appliances and charging electric vehicles, and turn off unnecessary lights. Thank goodness I don't live in the state of California. And thank goodness John doesn't live in the state of California. But John, you work, of course, in the energy field. Your initial thoughts on this? Because,
California's always been crazy, so that is. Steve will tell you how crazy in a couple moments. Yeah, California's just crazy with their emissions and energy, and they don't know what they're doing. And do you really think it's going to be voluntary after Gavin Newsom gets reelected? It's not going to be. It's not going. They're not going to ask you anymore.
No,
they're gonna start shutting it down, and that's the way he operates. So it doesn't putting 2 and 2 together. It's not a good scene for them.
Years after the fact, after that he's gone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that he's going to enforce this, or that the state is going to enforce this.
Yeah, it's not.
Steve had an interesting thought to your point. Steve, you had an interesting comment in pre-production. Why don't you go ahead and just talk about it from a law perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, when you're writing a legal brief or something, you usually cite 2 cases to support your positions, and so that can entail looking from courts all over the country. And one of the first questions, a junior associate is asked when they come in with their law, it's like, well, where's that case from? And if the answer is California, we usually take a pretty hard look at it, because California legal system tends to be a little crazier than the rest of the country. Texas is another one, John, where we get the same sort of reaction.
Absolutely.
Nutso. But California, I mean, California is just crazy and everything. Illinois Smith probably causes cancer in California, according to them.
Just nuts. Yeah.
I think he does, actually.
Hey, speaking of Illinois Smith, you might want to watch out for him, Steve, because I mean, he was looking out like he's like saying, we won't see Steve Murray anymore. I'm thinking like, whoa, man, what's going on here? You know, while you were away on vacation, it's crazy. It was nuts. You got some heat there with him, man.
Well, right. But this whole thing, it's, you know, who's to say what the condition of electric cars is going to be by 2035 and what the electric generation system will be, if California will have the infrastructure, nuclear, to support, being able to support vehicles on a massive scale that are electric. So it's kind of hard to say where they'll be at that point, but this is really a foot and mouth type of moment, not reading the room. Failure to take charge of the landscape,
not allowing the free markets to do what they do.
This is not a good look.
It is not.
It's just the bottom line.
Here's the thing: the regulation will help California meet clean air standards by cutting emissions, resulting in a 25% reduction in smog-forming emissions from passenger vehicles by 2037. On the surface, that sounds great. I mean, we're all for clearing the air and in the environment. However, there's the problem. From the article, mystateline.com, California already has the largest electric vehicle market in the country, with over 1.1 million vehicles registered. That comprises 43% of the nation's plug-in vehicles. Today, though, there are just 80,000 public charging stations around the state, far of the 1.2 million charging stations the state estimates it needs by 2030. 80,000.
That's one of the biggest problems.
80,000 to 1.2 million.
That is the biggest problem, because California, pre-having 43% of their cars being electric, this is 15 years ago, had a shitty power grid. They've never enhanced their power grid. They just added electric cars to it, and then now they're going to add more electric cars to it. Big point. I sent a picture to Steve and Matt before we came on about Tesla. Tesla has work vehicles that fix you when you're stranded, that, come help you, change your computer stuff. They're Fords, and they run on gas because they're not even prepared to put out a fleet that runs on electric.
Yeah. It's just awful. That's 6%, by the way. 80,000 in the 1.2 million is 6%. So we're not even talking 10%. It would be 120,000, just to give you an idea.
43% of the cars, but 6% of the charging stations.
And the best electric cars out there, as I understand it, will only get you 300 to 400 miles, maybe.
Something like that,
on a full charge.
Something like that. Unless you're...
So if you can't go on a long road trip because you don't have enough stations to power your
unless you're Joe Biden, because an electric car will run on a full tank of gas across the country. He's the only one that seems to be able to master this whole electric car thing.
Yeah, exactly.
My biggest issue, aside from the lack of charging stations, is also what I think is a huge limitation currently in the technology, which is how long it takes to charge.
Yes.
Again, you're looking at, a minimum of a half hour to 45 minutes to reach like 80% or a full charge. Who's going to sit around waiting for a charge?
Yeah.
You really,
especially
can't.
In the summer months.
In today's world, you really can't, because normally you got to be somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Especially this society, we're so connected, we're so locked in. I can't think of time where I can charge my electric vehicle, and I also live in an apartment, so I can't charge my electric vehicle because I have no place to charge my electric vehicle.
Yeah,
you mostly have to own a home to own an electric car at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not only do you have to do that, Johnny, but you're also draining your own electric bill to charge said vehicle. For like a certain number of times, and that's only going to increase the cost of your electric bill. year over year, month over month, week over week. We're not thinking as typical. We're not fully thinking this all the way straight through from a project management perspective.
There may be an offset from, gas. I don't know what the exchange there is, whether your electric bill would go up proportionately to having to pay for gas goes down or what. But, we don't know that.
Yeah, exactly. But and this is the other thing too, gents. We were talking about this in pre-production. Everybody, 17 other states right now are thinking or weighing or adopting this mandate that's coming out of California. And one of the articles that we have here, it comes out of Minneapolis, and it's really funny. Some of the Minneapolis lawmakers are like, well, wait a minute, we don't have the Southern California climate here. We still need oil and gas, obviously, to power our cars. So if we strain the electric, that's just not going to work. So it's like this only, I think, would only, if it does seem to work, it would only be in the southern states. You can't really go northern and above. If you're talking like Pennsylvania, I know Governor Wolf looked at it and thought, this isn't going to work, and scrapped it. He was just like, nah, we're not going to go down here. We're not going to go down this road. In that regard, it's just, you have to think these things through all the way straight through. And I think the goal of reducing carbon emissions is great. And let's face it too, the auto industry has come a very long way just within the last 20 years of improving fuel efficiency and reducing its carbon emissions. That's a really, really good thing. But to foist an electric car that basically only goes, Steve, to your point, 300 miles, and then you're charging it 30, for 30 minutes, that's ridiculous, especially if you're in a hurry. That's just awful. Awful.
And here's your other problem. This is all said to be in the name of improving climate and, reducing emissions. Where do you think a lot of that electricity comes from that you're charging the vehicle with?
Yeah.
Coal.
Yeah.
Oh,
so what are you really accomplishing?
Not much.
At the end of the
by
day.
the way, the Tesla charging stations, they run on diesel generators. So,
yeah, it kind of goes all the way back to the original fossil fuel. So what are we exactly saving here? That's the thing. You've got to generate electricity. Doesn't just run itself. That kind of a deal. You have to dig stuff out of the ground, right? That's the thing. Lithium batteries come out of mines from China. They don't. That kind of a deal. Majority.
There's another problem right there. Is the materials they make the battery out of are not nice things.
Nope.
So when the battery finally kicks, you're going to have to dispose of it, and that's not going to be nice for the environment either.
Yeah, and they don't last long either.
Yep. There is no plan for that either. It's just right into the landfill again. But this is what the clean air policy has been for years and years and years. When you think of an actual clean air policy, you have to look at 100 years. So you have to take, okay, we're 2022. Where do we want to be in 2022, right? So you got
that'd be 1,000 years.
Oh, I'm sorry, 100 years.
21,
22. Yes.
Math.
So I want to be here, right? I want to be here. Here's my end goal. Start phasing it out slowly. Get people used to it. Start using technology to help you to get this finer. This ban idea, this, and I think it's more political than it is scientific. This ban stuff makes no sense. Okay, that's not good. Let's ban cigarettes are bad for you. Ban cigarettes. Alcohol is bad for you. Ban. And what do you get? You get side hustles that create more bullshit than fixing the problem of regulating it somewhat. Why can't we regulate that 10% needs to be next year and maybe 15% or 11% the next year? 12%, meet your little quotas. You can force feed people without force feeding them, if that makes any sense. You can make it work for you.
We've kind of gone through this in the past where we've had prohibition, right? I mean, in the 1920s, to your point, John, when you had a ban of tobacco and a ban of alcohol, what happened? You had people skirting around the issue to get their tobacco and to get their alcohol. So you're going to have the same thing happen again in California. And it caused more harm than good. Yeah,
you raise crime, you raise safety, because if you know, people are already cooking meth in every other house. So if you're adding people, you know, siphoning gasoline out of things because they can't get gasoline for their gas car, it's not going to be a good.
What I'm going to say is, instead of banning gas outright, do what John says: regulate it slowly, and invest in developing the technology to the point where it's actually feasible, and usable on a mass scale. Instead of just setting these this is a totally arbitrary deadline. 2035.
Yeah.
No more new car sales of gas. Why? Get the technology where it needs to be, and then figure it out.
It's 6 feet all over again, because 10's too long and 3's too short. It's the same. Nobody cares if it's 2065. Nobody will care. Nobody will react. So if you just make it close enough, you'll get people to freak out. Maybe you'll get them to buy some cars. That's what this deadline sounds like.
It puts me in mind of the old South Park episode where Kyle's family moves to San Francisco and everybody there's driving hybrids, but they also love the smell of their own farts because it's the politicians in California that are making these rules. I think they think so highly of themselves and are so smug.
Oh, absolutely.
That they think, everybody should be driving an electric vehicle by 2035, and the electric vehicle manufacturers are like,
yeah, we can't do that.
We can't do that. All right, guys, here we go with topic 2, and let's go with a little douchebaggery, gents. What do you say?
Douche of the week.
The douche of the week, I think, and Steve had a good one where it was like, yeah, exactly. Might be the douche of the week segment.
It's our new Fab Five.
Exactly.
Nice.
Headline: Dirtbag fan steals home run ball right out of teen's glove at Kansas City Royals game. Huffington Post article here.
Can we give them props for calling him a dirtbag in the headline?
That's awesome.
100%. And I don't I don't necessarily agree with the Huffington Post, but I'm 100% right there with you, Steve. Absolutely.
Dirtbag was good. If they would have went douche noodle, I would have printed it out and put it on my wall.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy lives a little ahead of dirtbag. He's in douche noodle land.
This is really just amazing. There's a video, a link to this article here. This aggravating video went viral last week of a man stealing a home run ball right out of the glove of a teen spectator of a Kansas City Royals game. Apparently it was hit by Juan Soto of the San Diego Padres in an interleague game, sailed into the stands, and caught it. Minute to ready, caught the ball. He's celebrating, high-fiving everybody, puts it down, rested his glove, and this guy comes in, yoinks the ball right out of his glove and jogs away. And it's like, and the fan was like, I don't know what the hell was that. He was scared out of his freaking mind, apparently.
It was actually, if you watch the video,
he hooked his arm.
Yeah, he hooks his arm.
Really?
Well, this is not a scenario. I mean, I think you've explained it correctly, but this is not a scenario where, like, his hand happened to be overlapping the kid's glove, and he caught the ball in his hand,
just tied for it or whatever. Yeah.
Right, which would have been a little bit different story. This was like the kid actually caught the ball in his glove. It landed in his glove. The guy hooked his arm, reached in with his hand, and took it out. And then, stared at him for 5 to 10 seconds before running away. It was so bizarre.
So hard.
It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
It
was creepy. Not for nothing, not excusing any of the behavior, but the team that they're talking about, they are sensationalizing this a little. The dude's 18 years old.
Yes.
He wasn't a 12-year-old. He wasn't a 13-year-old. He was an 18-year-old. In Philly, that probably wouldn't fly. The 18-year-old probably knocked that dude out. You wouldn't hear any of the story except for a Philly fan gets hauled off because of
right. Gets thrown in jail underneath Veterans Stadium. Yeah, exactly.
We raise our kids a little different, not to let douchebags like this. But this is
that's why he's doing it in places like Kansas City and Hillsboro, Oregon, or wherever.
Yeah, Hillsboro. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The tweet after I see the video, I see a tweet. I don't know if it was this article or the other article, led me to a Twitter account that said this guy was in Oregon last week doing the exact same thing.
That's just amazing.
This guy saw him do the exact same thing. So he's yeah. I get. What is he? The kissing bandit of the 2000s now? Like he's gonna run around with weird gloves and jump 18-year-olds and steal baseballs.
My question to you guys is, and I think I sent this to you guys in pre-production. There was a separate article, Crossing Broad, I think, and it was this guy has a YouTube channel, and he's filming himself with this guy like driving him to like Coors Field, and he's trying to get in the left field stands, getting home run balls, and one of the ushers kicks him out. Now I wonder if this is the same guy that is doing this, that did this in Kansas City. It seems like it. I could be completely wrong, but yeah, I mean, what an absolute douchebag is like the best way I could put it. I mean, a dirtbag, you could put it like that. It's like, what are you doing? Like just running around and stealing people's rightfully his home run balls. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. It's just so stupid.
This is probably one small step to becoming the douche who will like knock over children to go retrieve a ball that's loose in the seats. Like that.
At least he's not that guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder, guys, like we've been to sporting games. Maybe I'll just ask you guys, like kind of off the cuff here. We've been to many sporting games throughout our lifetimes. When do you think was the last time you saw not necessarily something like this, but something similar to this? Maybe in like rowdy behavior that we've seen in the past before. I don't know.
Haven't seen much rowdy, and I've been to Eagles Cowboys games in Cowboy Stadium, and I haven't seen much rowdy.
Nothing like that at all.
Which is bizarre. You would think.
Yeah, you would think.
Now.
Yeah, Steve.
Well, I mean, I could go off on a tangent on this because I've seen some weird stuff, not like this. The weird event that springs to mind just at a sporting event. I was at a Flyers Bruins game many years ago, and there was a Bruin fan there who she was dressed kind of scantily, like she had short shorts, she had like eye black under her eyes with Bruins, she was like dolled up. And she was obnoxious. Every time the Bruins would score, she would run up and down the stairs of the section.
Oh, jeez.
And it was so bad. And there was this guy, like a row or two in front of me, who was giving it back to her. And he was like offering her dollar bills. But the best part was the Flyers, and this was a game. I think there were a lot of injuries the Flyers had. Like they were down Danny Briere, they were down like a whole bunch of their good players, but they still managed to tie the game in like the last minute on a last minute goal. And so this guy gets out in the aisle and starts shaking his ass. Oh my God. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Just one thing after another.
And she shut up after that. It went to the Flyers ended up losing in a shootout, but she was quiet after that.
After that, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Was there? I mean, the only thing I guess the closest that I would ever come close was probably I saw a brawl on the 700 level at the vet. But I mean, that's like,
well, who hasn't seen that?
Who hasn't seen that? Right? I mean,
that was my childhood.
I mean, that was. We all grew up with that. I mean, that's really the closest. Yeah. But nothing like, I mean, and it's probably the closest I've seen to like some sort of like rowdy type behavior or something like this. But I mean, to steal the ball of like,
this isn't rowdy.
This isn't rowdy. This is really creepy behavior. This is just like, you're just after home run balls after someone else makes the catch. It's like, dude, come on. You know, give me a break.
The creepiest part about it was the stare down afterward.
Yeah.
Like he's just looking at him like, and the kid's like, what the hell?
What are you doing?
And then he like, It was almost like a cartoon. Like he's staring at the kid for 10 seconds, and he turns around and bolts. Like,
Yeah.
That's
this
weird.
kind of thing.
Yeah, that's just so bizarre.
It's so weird.
Yeah,
It is.
so bizarre. All right, guys. So here we go with the third topic, episode 101. And Elon Musk. You know, we have to have an Elon Musk segment. Now we have a douche of the week. Now we got to have the Elon Musk segment.
You're not making Mach happy.
No,
That's for
not at all.
We're gonna run out of stuff really quickly.
Exactly.
He only pops up every 6 weeks.
Every 6 weeks or so. That's right. That's right. But this is really good. Typically, there's been some good and some bad with Elon, but this is a good thing. He's announcing a partnership to end cell phone dead zones in the United States, guys. He's basically SpaceX and T-Mobile, who Steve and I have partnerships with T-Mobile, the customers of them. John, I think you're with Verizon, right? I think in that regard, but we'll leave that there.
I wouldn't call what we have a partnership.
Yeah.
I pay them significant sums of money every week,
exactly.
month, for their services.
Yeah, exactly.
Yours is
Partnership's not
closer
exactly
to a partnership than mine.
Yours is just full on rape. I know.
Yeah,
exactly. So SpaceX and T-Mobile guys on Thursday, I think of last week, announced coverage above and beyond. It's a plan to end cell phone dead spots worldwide. And so T-Mobile is partnering with Starlink, which is one of Elon Musk's companies to provide the cell signals around the globe, really to end cell phone dead spots. So it's announced by the T-Mobile CEO, Mike Seibert, and of course Elon. So it's a breakthrough new plan to end cell service connectivity or cell phone connectivity everywhere. So essentially what they're doing is Starlink's just going to, saying here from a quote, leveraging Starlink, SpaceX constellation of satellites in low Earth orbit, and T-Mobile's industry-leading wireless network, the Un-carrier plans to provide near complete coverage in most places in the U.S., even in many of the most remote locations previously unreachable by traditional cell signals. So they're going to the middle of Death Valley, Great Smoky Mountains, persistent neighborhood dead zone. They're going to be covering.
They're going to go into my family room.
They're going to go into Steve's family room.
I have a massive dead spot in my family room.
It's pretty much as dead there. Having been there live for the torn ACL draft not that long ago, yeah, I can attest to that. Thank goodness for Wi-Fi. But
right.
But for John, of course, who's been on the road, you've been in dead spots, right? Mm-hmm. So why don't we talk about it, Johnny? I mean, I think it's a really good plan, especially for you and for other people that are out there in the field, I would think, right?
It's too bad he's on Verizon. So
yeah, I know, exactly.
It makes it. This is just one of those things that makes sense. Like, why wasn't this done before? We have the technology, like we were talking about in the first article. We have the technology. Two companies apparently have the technology that'll work together. Mm-hmm. Hey, let's work together and solve a simple. There's no reason in 2022 that Steve should have a dead zone in his living room.
Yeah.
So just think about that. Think about how asinine that is. There's 9,000 cell phone towers in one neighborhood.
Yeah, like, in certain spots,
disguised trees.
Yeah, disguised as trees.
This is pretty simple to just fix. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's not 1992.
One would think that, yeah, for sure. I know I worked in the cell phone industry. My first job was in the cell phone industry, working with Comcast, as you guys know. And even though we had, quote unquote, nationwide coverage, we weren't nationwide. We were never going to be. It was disguised as roaming charges, basically. And one was
over Kansas.
I skipped over Kansas and all that kind of stuff. But really, the whole thing was Toms River, New Jersey. And that's notorious for being horrible in terms of its cell phone coverage. It's just awful. Back in the day, we had a ton of roaming charges. You know, even though they were on the network, roaming charges would pop up for people that had nationwide coverages.
Maybe that's why they had such a good Little League team, is their kids weren't affected by all the signals that were flying everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm all for it. This is really utilizing technology in the right way, as opposed to what we were covering in the first topic with electric cars, where there's a mandate. Here, it's like, okay, well, what can we do? We know there's a problem. There's a problem in dead zones in around the country. How do we rectify that? Yeah. Okay, well, we've got a leading provider in T-Mobile. We've got a guy who is obsessed with putting things up in the air and launching us into space.
Things in the air all the time. So
well, exactly. That's what makes me nervous. That's what makes me nervous is I'm afraid because Elon shoots stuff up there that blows up. He's going to blow up my T-Mobile network. I'm not going to be happy about that.
Exactly.
It's a possibility.
But it's a good partnership, obviously. And it's like, okay, so what can we do to deaden the zones, basically, making sure that those dead zones turn alive, essentially. And especially if you're in a dead zone and there's an emergency, you're screwed. I mean, it literally is like if you have if you're out stranded somewhere in the middle of nowhere and and it really is difficult to get something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. It seems like it's a great thing.
If it works, it's going to change horror movies forever because you
have
that scene where it's like, oh, I don't have service here. Crap, what are we going to do? All horror movies will not have to be set in the past.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. Back in the 17, 1800s. Yeah, exactly.
Because nothing horrible is going to happen in the future. Just remember that.
Yeah, right. I was just going to say, John, like being out where you, like, when you're remote like that, you're praying for a payphone, right? At the end of the day, if you can't get anywhere. But even the payphones are dead, right?
Yeah, they don't. Payphones don't exist in Texas anymore.
Yeah.
No, they're around every once in a while. But yeah, it's when I'm in a dead zone. It's from what he's talking about, saving. That's when you have nothing. Like I have internet, jetpacks. I have phones. I have enough to where I could get a service at some point. And some of these places are just. I remember a couple years ago, I was working in West Virginia, and I was about 3 hours outside of town. Anybody who works in the field I work in that listens to this will know exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about this certain place. I didn't have cell phone service driving 2 hours in, and I didn't get it 2 hours out. So it was like a 2 hour dead zone. And trying to communicate with other people in other states because of that's nerve-wracking.
Oh, I bet.
Because you got to drive 2 hours just to get a bar, so you could be like, "Hey, I was at station blah blah blah, which is now 2 hours away from me. Oh, I had an issue. Now I got to go back."
I don't know how you do it. Yeah, exactly.
Like it's nowhere near as bad.
It's not every day. That's the
It's nowhere near as bad, but taking the Amtrak down to DC, there were like spots in Maryland you would go through. We're like, oh, we're in the Maryland dead zone. We're not going to get any service.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Think of like the Baltimore Inner Harbor.
Every state.
Yeah. It's like in the Baltimore Inner Harbor, especially if you go underneath that tunnel. It's like, forget it, you're never coming out. Even the Lehigh Tunnel too, up north. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not talking about tunnels. I'm talking we would be above ground on the train in Maryland somewhere where apparently they don't like cell phones, so you wouldn't get any service.
It's amazing.
I think there's a lot of with those. I think it's just they won't allow them to build a cell phone tower in a certain area, and that's what causes these dead zones. Because you got one here, and it can't because your phone goes to the closest one. But if the closest one is full, it directs to the next one. I think that's how the technology works.
Yeah.
I don't know,
that's exactly how it works.
They beam stuff into our head all the time. I don't know much about it.
That's scary.
I just know I need it. So please, yes.
Yeah. That's scary.
If we're gonna move forward in technology, keeping, business changing and forever growing into this interactive thing where we can work remotely, they need to solve this problem.
No question. Yeah, no question about it.
Because if I work remotely, that means I can move anywhere. Well, if I move to Idaho into a dead zone, I don't have a job anymore because it doesn't work.
Also, too, Wi-Fi capability, I think, has to also improve as well, if you're thinking about it. Because I have a friend of mine that, the church I used to go to, he was my elder, and he worked in the IT field. And the problem with Wi-Fi that he was dealing with was the amount of traffic Cell phone services being one of them.
Oh, yeah.
So you're bouncing all kinds of signals, and it's like if you get that cluttered, guess what happens? Your cell phone service starts to go down. So it's like
Absolutely.
that technology also has to improve so that there's less traffic in terms of Wi-Fi. And I think that's why whenever you go on a train, to Steve's point, down to DC, if you're taking Amtrak down, you don't dare sign on for their Wi-Fi because you know, A, one, you're going to get charged for it, but B, it's not going to be all that good because literally like you're jumping on with everybody. Exactly. Everybody else is using it. Exactly.
And same thing
you
with
have that
airplanes.
to contend with.
I don't do it with airplanes because there's no reason. Just sit back and watch
Snoop's
a movie.
going to make that free. He's like going to make that free. You remember like a couple episodes back, he was going to make that free. Or he's just going to buy Twitter. He's going to make
That's not happening.
There's one airline, it might be American, I don't remember which one. You can get free Wi-Fi if you're just going to use it to watch the movies on there.
Yeah, that is.
If you have the app,
yeah.
you can.
Yeah.
So that's fine. That's all I want to do when I'm on a plane anyway. Is just watch something.
Yeah, that's all I want to do is watch the movie and sleep. So I don't really care about airplane Wi-Fi at all.
Right. I'll preload that into the iPad though, and I'll just download it and have it saved on there. That's what I'll do.
That's normally what if I didn't like the movie they had, I have movies on my phone that I could just put in airplane mode and watch a movie.
Yeah, they have so many now to pick from.
Yeah, I know.
It's like impossible. It's almost impossible not to find something youd want to watch.
Exactly.
They've got a lot.
So much.
My latest thing was I got so far behind in the Marvel series. Like so far behind, like I only saw like the first Iron Man. So every time I had to travel on an airplane, I knocked one off my list. So I was actually respectfully in the middle. So thanks, American, for having all the Marvels, because I would have never watched them. Like if I didn't have like 3 hours blocked out like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. The first Iron Man is where I stopped.
Me too.
All right, guys, here we go. Fourth topic, and this is a very interesting tweet that we uncovered or found. I think John, right, you had found for us, and this is a very interesting sports topic. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
This was the question off of a tweet. They were asking what something about the NHL. How could they do stuff better? And this guy's reply was, if the NHL was smart. Which it's not. So he's clearly not understanding that this isn't going to happen. What if they had an annual original 6 day where the original 6, the Rangers, the Bruins, the Leafs, the Habs, the Hawks, and the Wings would play, and everybody else would have the day off, and all the games would be on national TV, US and Canada. It would be more like, and what he's saying, it would be a good history lesson for this generation. And moving forward for the love of hockey, kind of maybe help people fall in love with it.
That's kind of an interesting question. Steve with an obvious
Steve disagrees
no.
Completely.
Yeah. Please elaborate, Steve. Why do you say that it would not be good? Go ahead.
This has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I hate passionately at least 3 of those original 6 games. If that's a suggestion, I don't think that's going to do anything to draw you new viewers. If anything, that's just going to be nostalgia for the older viewers who are like, isn't that cool? They're doing the original 6. That's not going to bring in new viewers. That's just not a history lesson. Kids don't care about history. They're not gonna... Watching the Leafs blow a lead to the Boston Bruins in a game on national TV is not going to bring in new fans. I'm sorry.
It's not? I thought it would, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, those teams would have to get good again for it to work. You want to watch good hockey? Why put shitty hockey on national TV? Fox did that for years. It didn't work out well.
No,
that's the thing. Everybody says, because the Olympics every 4 years when they were having NHL players play, like, oh man, if only the NHL could be like this. Well, the NHL is not comprised of all-star teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what Olympic hockey is.
Yeah.
Every 4 years, you go through this cycle of the Olympics are here and they're showing us what hockey could be like without fighting and blah blah blah. This is how. Well, the Olympics are first of all, it's a special event every 4 years. That's what makes it special. If you had it every day, it would be less special.
Yes.
Second, it's all-star teams. It's not, your normal NHL team. It's obviously going to be better hockey because your fourth liners are guys like Joe Sakic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's fantasy hockey in a way. Yeah, you're right.
Basically.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, I remember hearing that from that racist Mike Wilbon, who basically, and he's also an old man too. So there you go. He made that exact point. He said, well, if hockey would be more marketable if you treat it as if it's the Olympics. And I'm like, dude, I mean, like, what are you talking about? It's like saying like the NBA would be great if you had the dream team all the time. It's like, give me a break with that.
That's true. It would be. But it would also be boring when that happens every day. To Steve's point,
exactly.
The one thing they have to do is hockey has to get popular before it'll get a television contract. Before we can even start here, like they need some kind of groundswell of people to like them before people could like them, if that makes any sense, because they're kind of stuck in this weird, they never get the prime time. They're never going to get like a Monday night. They're never going to get a Sunday night. If they do, they're going to be buried on another network because someone else's. The NBA's probably in front of them, especially with ESPN.
I was just going to say, John, I think the difficulty with the NHL is that it's not considered in the eyes of the casual viewer to be a global sport like football would be or what basketball would be, and you don't.
I disagree. I don't think football.
Right. I'm just saying from the casual
outside of
viewer,
the U.S., nobody gives a shit.
Right. That's what I mean, Steve. Like, I think, it's more on the casual side of things. I think all three of us, of course, like we watch hockey, we play it, and we have played it. Really, that's been the difficult part is how do you grow the sport? How do you get people to come out and to watch the sport? Because seeing it live, it's just, you could be in the nosebleeds or you could be down below.
Different. Yeah.
It's so different than watching on TV. And yet on TV, it doesn't translate. And I think it doesn't translate because the puck is only, I don't have it with me, but it's only like, an inch and a half thick. And it moves around so quick and so fast that to the casual viewer, you're like, where's the puck? I don't know what's going on. And unless you know where if you played hockey, Good.
It can be considered a boring. It can be considered a boring sport to people that don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
but
and then you have like this weird offsides and all that kind of stuff, and it's like you got to explain it. It's like, come on,
that's part of the problem. I mean, an educational campaign might be useful to hey, this is how it works, because that's for people I know who don't watch hockey, whenever it's presented to them, they just their response is, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It just looks like a bunch of guys running around. I don't know what they're doing. It doesn't make sense to me.
The Nashville
I have
Predators,
my own theory. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead. I was just the Nashville Predators, when they first started, they announced all the rule stuff over the loudspeaker for the first couple of years. And their fan base has grown pretty decently through that,
very
because
much so.
They took the initiative. Something like that makes sense. I mean, that would probably be annoying for us watching a hockey game that every time there's an offside, a guy going offsides, like. But
because this guy was over the line.
Yes, an educational campaign seems like a really good idea to bring more people to the sport. The Phillies do that baseball 101 thing, and the NFL NFL's trying to do trying to bring more women into the sport. They have camps and stuff that you can go to if you're interested, so you can learn a little bit. I think something like that would work. But Steve, you have an idea.
Yeah.
What is your idea?
Well, I don't have an idea. I have a theory. To me, why football and baseball used to be considered national pastime. I have a reason why those two are probably true, which is you don't have to pay attention the whole time.
Yeah.
Football is very stop and start. You go for 2 seconds, and then you get 40 seconds in between plays, and so you can just turn around and bullshit with people with you, and do whatever. And same thing with baseball. You throw the pitch, and then you're waiting another minute for the next pitch to be thrown, and you don't have to pay attention. Hockey, you kind of have to it's you get breaks for face-offs when you get an offsides or an icing or something, but for the most part, it's constant action, and you have to kind of follow it. It's not everybody resets. Okay, we moved 5 yards. Everybody take their time and reset again.
You don't get to celebrate.
Be a part of
it. You don't have time. You don't have time to celebrate in hockey because you can cheer a hit and you're going to miss a goal.
Right, exactly.
That's what I always learned.
Yeah, exactly.
I just made a big hit. Oh shit, we got scored on.
Yeah,
we remember that was that one time I think you and I went to a game, Steve, where it was like I think Forsberg had a amazing move, which I think either led to a stoppage, and then the faceoff was won, and it went all the way down to the other end. And I think I forget who the goalie was at the time, but he was looking up at the screen. Next thing you know, it's in the net.
Yes, it was the Flyers Penguins.
Yeah,
Sidney Crosby's first year. Forsberg's first year here. Forsberg made this between the legs move to get around a defender, and it didn't result in a goal. But it was it was a sick move, and so they were replaying it on the scoreboard. It was Antero Niittymaki was watching it. Yeah. Max Talbot, who was then with the Penguins, won the draw and just fired it down, and Niittymaki wasn't paying attention, and the puck went in the net.
Went in the net, and we didn't know what happened. It's like, oh crap, and then we're down 1-0 or whatever. Yeah.
What the hell?
Was unbelievable. Do you also think, too, guys, that the problem with the NHL is that they try and push stars that are really, we go back to topic 2, they're really douchebags. And I'm thinking specifically, I know this is going to be a little bit Philly-Pittsburgh hate, but Sidney Crosby, whiner, crybaby, and he's marketed as the #1 star.
He is.
Pretty
good player, though.
He is a pretty good player.
You have to market the guys who are good.
You do. I get that.
He's a good player.
But it's like you have a Connor McDavid, not a douche player, but he's up in Edmonton, and it's like, well, where the heck is Edmonton? Well, it's this city out in the middle of nowhere in Canada, the northwest corner of Canada. What? You're kind of you're trying to a casual viewer, you're like, okay, he's out in the West Coast. I'm not going to see him play. You're kind of just like, how do you balance that? I guess is my question. You got to have, I think, marketable stars.
More primetime games with stars and not teams. If that makes any sense. If there's a guy,
and that's hard because it's a team. Yeah. It's hard because it's a team-oriented game. Yeah.
People enjoy sports. The minor leagues have showed us that that people will, it'll be niche, but people will follow. So if they could get the scheduling figured out to in their very limited primetime spots, if they could probably focus on stars, because stars will then create, that kid might be like, I like that Edmonton logo. I'm going to wear that Edmonton. Who's that guy? Oh, who's that? And then the next guy. How did we learn about hockey? Oh, did you see that play? When we were talking, in the parking lot, we were playing. We started expanding and looking at other teams and seeing. And that's how you kind of grow it. The NHL just needs to do it. You need to put more of the players, the better players, no matter the team record. That's what I think would do. Could make people fall in love with the game and the players before you worry about the original six.
I think another part of the problem, it's sort of what Matt's getting at with the douchebag thing.
Yeah.
But sort of not. I mean, we all hate Sidney Crosby in Philadelphia because of our history with him.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But I would gather nationwide, you're probably not going to get that same animosity. I think more of the problem is, and it's sort of a catch-22, right? We want players to be humble and to be, think of teammates first, team first. We want, and in the NHL, probably more than any other league, they do that. The NHL interviews are boring as hell. Right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you get the same stock answer out of every single person in an NHL interview.
Yeah.
But it's always, my teammates, which I love, but it is boring.
Yeah.
And it's hard to market a superstar when they seem about to have the personality of a potato.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's most
it's Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan
Yes.
is a perfect example.
Great
Tim
example.
Duncan was a superstar player, but nobody ever really talks about him because he was a team first guy who was boring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he didn't have that kind of flair that other guys, Shaq and Kobe, you never knew what they were going to say in an interview. Tim Duncan just went about his work, and that's what a lot of NHL players are the same way. They don't have kind of the personality flair. Like Jeremy Roenick was an exception.
Yeah.
People loved Jeremy Roenick in this town because he was always shooting off his mouth, and it was fun and exciting. But
no question,
for every Jeremy Roenick, there's 10 other guys who we just got to get pucks 200 feet deep, and
we got to go on the forecheck.
Nobody's like. Right.
And half the
casual fan have no idea what they're talking about.
They were talking about. Exactly.
Half the people listening to the interview didn't even know that the rink was 200 feet.
What do you mean like pucks 200 feet deep? What, are they digging holes? What the hell?
It doesn't make any sense.
Such a great point, because it's like when you hear that phrase 200-foot player and you're talking to somebody who doesn't follow the sport of hockey, you're like, 200-foot player, what are you talking about? That's what we're kind of just like, you got to get beyond the internal speaking of this. And it's like, you have to promote your game better in terms of that, I think.
Yes.
In that regard.
And don't have ESPN do it, because ESPN is condescending every time they do something. So if you're going to put hockey on ESPN, they're going to give you Barry Melrose, and he's going to be like, well, I've been in hockey for 30 years and I know all this stuff about hockey. Yeah, but people that are watching don't. Maybe educate them, douchebag.
To your point, John, the worst thing that the NHL did was go back on ESPN, and they had Barry Melrose on, and Barry Melrose is like 60. I think he's in his 60s now.
He's the worst.
And it's like, you just don't want that. It's like it's literally like putting that back into a time machine. They're trying to recapture what it once was, and it's like, no, it just doesn't work that way.
That's not going to help.
It's just not going to help. And
I think there's another problem too. Is I think part of the diehard fan culture is they don't consider you a fan unless you're like at the same level as they are. It's like any fandom really anymore. It's like the people who are really, really into it don't want like the noobs coming in.
No, they don't want the fringe fan. They don't want the fringe fan.
No, exactly. And it hurts more than it helps. But
exactly.
ESPN, I agree, sucks. But I thought the TNT, what they did on TNT, I thought was great. Paul Bissonnette, Rick Tocchet, and they'd have Wayne Gretzky on every once in a while. I thought that was great. I thought that they had a great chemistry on that set. I thought they did a good job, because they actually do have some personality, and Gretzky's got some great stories to tell. So he gives it to Bissonnette just as much as Bissonnette gives it to everybody else.
Exactly.
Which is great.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Whereas I think you could tell that NBC, when they had it, was very business oriented. That kind of deal. It's like, okay, here's how we're going to do it, and we're going to bring in like Anson Carter, and every once in a while, I forget the guy's name, Patrick Sharp.
I like Anson Carter. He's good.
Anson Carter was really good, but again, they're very professional. They know what they're doing. There's no banner back and forth. Whereas if you had a Gretzky and a Tocchet and a Bissonnette, it's like all of a sudden now it's like you're getting all this banner back and forth. It's really cool.
They shaved Biz's head after the one to make him look like Tocchet because he lost a bet. Yeah,
you can't ask for any better than that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's what they were doing with the NBA and the NFL. So these really just follow suit, and you could get the youth involved. Just bring younger guys in to bridge the gap.
Personality.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
I instead of maybe from a scheduling perspective, I think from that standpoint, guys, I think what would really help the league is if you had all 32 teams playing in one game, and in one day.
In one game, that'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. But no, I meant in one day. But it's like if you've got all 32 teams, 16 games in one day, that would be really cool. Heading into a Christmas break, or heading into a Thanksgiving break, or something along those lines, where it's like you lead into that. And part of it too is they're off on Christmas, but the NBA dominates it, and everybody looks forward more to the NBA Christmas games.
Well, you have to be off on Christmas because the NBA dominates it.
That's the thing, John. I mean, it's like in terms of an NHL day, really, their biggest day is New Year's Day, and that's outdoors. They go to the Outdoor Winter Classic every year, and that has helped. But it really helps too that you have marketable teams, and how well they're doing in the standings. Because some of their Winter Classics have been duds. Some teams aren't as good as others.
To your point, though, that would work if they did the Winter Classic and then had everybody else play on that day, or at least half the teams play, and then they could shine into those games during, and they would see more talent. Yeah, because that's probably your biggest rating, right? Would be New Year's Day.
Either that, or you do two of them, You do a day, afternoon into evening in a cold weather environment, and then you go up into Canada for the evening. You go from like maybe a 7 o'clock where they're playing up in like, Winnipeg somewhere or something like that. So you have like a Canadian Outdoor Winter Classic and an American Outdoor Winter Classic.
Well, they usually do a Canadian one. They do a Canadian one usually like February.
Yeah.
I think
when it's like freezing outside, and that's crazy. But it's great. It's great television. It's terrific.
Oh, it is great.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I think the best thing the NHL did last season was not having Pierre Maguire at all involved in the broadcasting part of it. But since he's been fired by the Ottawa Senators, I think he might be coming back, unfortunately.
Yikes.
Yeah. Maybe Giroux had something to do with that. I don't know. Maybe Giroux was like, I don't want to work for this guy. Get him out of here. It's like, okay.
I'm not coming unless you get rid of Maguire.
Exactly. So in a way, it was like,
I don't need him.
It's like,
I don't need him reminding me who my 8th grade teacher was back when I was in elementary school.
Exactly.
And doing it so condescendingly.
Oh. That's another problem too. Get good analysts in there too. Out on the ice. We'll see. But in any event, guys, I guess that's the end of Two Noobs Talking. Episode 101 is over, and it's great to be able to sit and talk with you guys. Of course, talk about the news of the day and do all kinds of really cool stuff throughout the day. So we'll be on to 102 as we move on to the triple digits. But John, I guess
what are we going to do for an intro?
Oh my gosh. Stay tuned, right? In that regard. But John, where can people find us, man? On the Two Noobs land.
We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Clapper. All little short videos that will lead you to...
Hey, that's our new and improved YouTube channel, Two Noobs Talking. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, of course. Get notified when our episodes drop Wednesdays at 7 Eastern Time. On the audio side, Steve, where can people listen to us?
Well, just to clarify, our episodes normally drop on Wednesdays, but we dropped episode 100, our centennial, on Sunday. So it's already out now. Make sure you go back and watch it and like it and tell me how much you liked it. Because otherwise Mach is coming to your house. He's going to snap you like a Slim Jim.
There you go.
On the audio side, we are proudly hosted by Podbean, who puts us out into many different audio places. Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, but you're a tool, Apple Podcast, for not fixing a logo that we're trying to fix. We are also on Spotify and Pandora, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio, Glenn.
Yes.
There you
Love
go.
You, Glenn.
Got to end with a nice shout out to Glenn. There you go. How you doing there, bud? That's it, guys. 101 in the books, 102 next week. Until then, talk to you all next week, and take care.
If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed. That's a great question. What is the long-term effect of too much information? One of the effects is the need to be first, not even to be true anymore.